Hi, this is Wishop, and I thought it would be fun to do a Groundhog Day reading. Groundhog Day, at least in the US, is how we mark the halfway point of winter. And of course, there are lots of holidays, religious and otherwise, around the globe which celebrate this. So we've got Groundhog Day, but there's also Candlemas on the 2nd. There's Imbolc, St. Bridget's Day. These are all ways of noting that we are halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. So it's a good time to take stock of how we're doing and to think about where we're going for the spring. Another reader noticed that, or noted that this is a time when in some cultures you begin your spring cleaning so that by the time of the spring equinox you feel ready to go, to burst into action. And I certainly feel that myself. I've been doing a lot of that around the house. So I think I'll continue with that. I still have some areas that definitely could use attention. But this is a time that we start looking at the goals that we've been setting. And I know I noted that at the beginning of the year, it didn't seem to me like it was the perfect time to goal set, but that later in January, it started to get great for goal setting. And we just had the full moon in Leo. And I should show you the foundation card. This was one thing I wanted to bring up in this reading, is the foundation card was the moon. This is the Tarot Illuminati by Eric Dunn. And if you see this version of the moon, she has the sun right behind her. And we had the full moon in Leo. Leo is the sunniest sign and the sign of new beginnings and children and things that kind of burst forth with a lot of enthusiasm and joy. And we have the moon underpinning that. So we've got the fire and the water energy together in a really constructive way. So looking at that as the foundation card, let's go on with the rest of the cards. So I'm going to flip them for you just so you can have the fun of seeing them as they emerge. I'm always excited when I flip a card because I never know what it's going to be like. Okay, so let's go through these individually and then in combination. I really felt where I was sort of shortchanging was in the combinations in the last video. It's easy when I flip a card at first glance to recognize it, identify it, think about its possible meanings. But where I really think it gets rich is where you get the combinations with other cards. They start speaking to each other, and then you start being able to pull out things that are more specific and more, many-faceted. So here's the Eight of Swords. So in general terms, a lot of people think of the Eight of Swords as you're being trapped by your own anxieties, thoughts, and fears. And that is, of course, a classic way to look at it. And the Eight of Swords, you can see she could get out of here if she wanted to. If she could take that step forward, she could get out of here. And here she's, of course, standing in a little bit of water, too. So the emotions are underpinning this. And 8 is a card of manifestation. So what happens is you've made your own prison, and it is the prison of anxieties and fears. But actually, I should say, in this card, in the traditional Rider-Waite, and in this one too, there is this castle in the background, which signifies the effect of other people. So it could be that other people have helped build these anxieties and fears, perhaps through judgments or criticism. You may feel bound from what you would like to do by their thoughts and fears. Or it could be that your own thoughts and fears are alienating you from their company because you feel unable to step out and to rejoin them. Or that you feel very alone because your thoughts and fears have you stepping out on your own, away from the rest of the pack. So I like to deal with this card, yes, as self-imposed limits, but also issues of alienation, being alienated by other people, but also alienating yourself. And this is happening in the mental realm. I point out that we had the moon underpinning us, which is, of course, the water card. This is an air card. This is the wand card, so the fire card. And here is the earth card, the pentacles. So we've really got all the elements represented. And I do think we're looking at questions of synthesis and union and balance. So here at the center of the reading is the Four of Wands, which some people think of as a wedding card. And I think of as a homecoming card. So it could be a wedding, but it's also, because it's the wands, it has to do with the heart and the spirit. So this is a sort of a spiritual homecoming. And here is the case of a union, like a wedding, where the wands, which can be fiery and unstable, in this case are actually providing the pillars. The spirit is providing the pillars of this happy scene. And it is a scene not just for these two, but also for the realm beyond it. So I think of this as sort of happy home, happy communities. It can be a sense of returning to a place that you've been before as a new person and finding welcome there, or welcoming yourself into something. So if I think of this as a card that has some estrangement in it, this can be a card saying that you're ready to overcome that estrangement because you've either forgiven the things of your past, or you have released yourself from the judgments that you put on or that other people have put on. And it allows you to proceed with joy and with abandon into this celebration, to take your place in this spiritual home if you have felt estranged from it. So here's the Princess of Pentacles, and she is another gorgeous card. Here you can take a look at her upright. Now what's interesting about this Princess of Pentacles is you can think of the princess as being the pages. Pages are often thought of as messengers. I often think of them as being in charge of something they don't own. The pages are often small in comparison to the sword they carry or the pentacle they carry, because they are young in the energy. And right now they're carrying the king's sword, or the queen's. They're carrying someone else's emblem, I guess I would say. So the Princess of Pentacles can be someone who is carrying someone else's set of values, someone else's set of worth. And here we have this pentacle, and of course the Page of Pentacles looks at the pentacle with great focus, focused on this one thing of value. And here we have the pentacle, and we have her holding a sheaf of wheat. Well, the wheat does not ripen until midsummer. But here around her, the sun is breaking over her shoulder. And if you can see here, this is a flowering fruit tree. So we would think of this as being a spring sort of energy, in this like low grass with these beautiful flowers. So I think the idea is, because this is in reverse, that you don't want to think so much single-mindedly about the harvest that you're trying to get to, about the quantitative practicality of how much do I want, or how many bushels of grain do I need. That's very quantitative, and when she's upright, it can be a message that you need to keep your mind on your money. You need to get focused about those things. But with her in reverse, with this beautiful springy background, and because of the time of the year we're heading towards spring, I feel like she's saying, it's great to have goals, but don't get too quantitative and hung up on them, because now is a time when the spring is offering opportunities to you. And when we look at this beautiful scene of blooming. This is a very springy scene, right? And we think of spring weddings. There are opportunities being offered which are tremendous and unexpected and joyful. And you have a chance to get to them if you don't have your head burrowed so much in the quantitative elements. And I pulled 2 oracle cards, and they're sort of helping me come to this sort of reading here. The first one was from the Buddha cards by Lynn McNulty, and here was that card, Beauty. So you've got this beautiful flower, it's very springy. And then I got this card from the Brownies Oracle, and there's a little companion deck with verses that goes with the Brownies Oracle, and you get them both together. So all I did was shuffle the little deck this time. This says, "The might that's spent in deeds of love may outshine precious stones above." In this case, might doesn't mean physical might. It means might like money, like the widow's mite from the biblical story, the widow who gave the tiny bit she had and was blessed more because what she gave was of greater value to her than people who had a lot and gave some. So this says, the might that's spent, oh dear. Let's see. We'll see if we're back. The might that's spent in deeds of love may outshine precious stones above. So the precious stones above would be the stars. But the fact that we're talking about precious stones really emphasizes this is about value, placing value on things. Venus is in Capricorn now, and she's getting close to Pluto and Mercury. She's only 4 degrees away from Pluto, and Pluto is only 2 degrees from Mercury. So we've got this convention going on in Capricorn. And Capricorn is about what you value. Capricorn is a determined and successful sign, but the earth signs also have to do with things you value in terms of love and beauty and service. So here, I think we're being told to still keep our mind on beauty and joy and love, rather than needing our goals. We may have made concrete goals, but rather than having them need to take a very quantitative form, the goals should still be on how do you want to feel and on falling in love with your goals. If the thoughts in your head and the feelings in your heart were turned into wallpaper of the room that you're sitting in, would it be a nice place for you to be? That's kind of the energy that I'm getting. That as we are falling in love with goals, with ourselves, as we're showing compassion, I know a lot of people are in healing processes, and because healing doesn't take a straight line any more than any other endeavor you would pick up, whether it's learning to play piano or starting yoga, you're not going to have this straight, smooth line of progress like shows on a chart. And that doesn't mean that you're not making wonderful progress and that you're not doing perfectly. So I think that whatever your goals are, you need to fall in love with them. They need to be beautiful in your eyes. Not in someone else's, not in the judgment of someone else, but just to you. And that you need to allow that feeling of beauty and of value to give you the bravery, the great bravery from that full moon in Leo, to step forward, not necessarily always knowing what the final quantitative outcome will be. The Princess of Pentacles promises there will be a harvest, but right now is the time for love and bravery and good feeling, a feeling of coming home to yourself. So I hope that you find that useful and at least entertaining, and I will talk to you later. In the meanwhile, please do rock on with your bad selves. Talk to you again at the new moon. Bye.